Okay, so I finished giving it a couple coats of primer. It's really all I'm going to do for right now. I'm going to let it dry, and probably tomorrow I'm going to come out and sand it down with a finer grit sandpaper. This way to fill in more of the cracks and crevices, and I'll give it another couple coats. And like I said before, like with the primer, you can kind of see like little pits in the bondo in your work that you might not have been able to see without it. Like I could see like it's almost like little pitting in the bondo area. So in the one spot. So the primer will help fill that up. But we can also, when this dries, I can put on it's a glazing putty, which is a thick primer, and you put it on, you scrape it in there, and you let it dry. And it just helps fill up some of the little nicks and imperfections that you may have missed while doing the body work. So that's really it for right now. We're just going to let it sit here and dry, and I'll be back out here tomorrow and sanding it down and giving it a couple more coats of primer. And it's really just about ready for paint. I mean, we came a long way from the rust holes that were on in there, welding the panels and patch panels and getting everything done. It looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm back bright and early this morning. The primer dried. I let the primer dry overnight, and I came out and gave it a quick sanding with 320 sandpaper, just smoothing it out, fill in some of the grit marks from the coarser sandpaper, and I sanded it down. And I had a few of those little pits, like I was starting to describe yesterday in the bondo. You sometimes get like little holes, like just like when you're putting plaster on a wall. You get little pinholes, not all the way through, but just little nicks in the bondo. So when you're done sanding it and priming it, we use this glazing putty right here. It's made by Bondo. Glazing and spot putty. Basically what this is it's a thick, it's a paste, and it's the only way to describe it is it's really like a primer, but real thick, almost in putty form. So what you do is you squeeze a little bit out on there, and you take a little putty knife, a little Bondo, paddle, and you just squeegee it across, the rough areas where there's, a couple little pinholes, nicks in the primer. So you just putty it there, and you let it dry like primer. I mean, it takes a couple hours, it's a little bit thicker, you gotta let it dry again. So we're gonna let this dry, and you can already see, I put it on about a half hour ago. You already see it changing colors. It's a little hot out today. So it's gonna dry up nice, and then I'm gonna give the whole thing another sanding all the way across, smooth that out. It'll fill in the little pinholes, and then I give the whole thing another coat of primer to fill in some more of the scratch marks, from the sandpapers. And I think I might do that like twice. I'll give it another coat, I'll let it dry for a couple hours, and then I'll prime it one more time again to make sure everything's filled in. And at that point, it should be ready for a final sanding and paint. Now when you're painting these newer vehicles, you can use like a 400 grit, 400, 600 grit sandpaper on a DA. I prefer to do water sanding on my own vehicle. It's a little bit harder, but when you water sand it, you get more of the scratches out and in the surface, and you get a nice smooth clear coat paint, which you can't tell with the truck already because of all the dust, but it's a silver, clear coated paint job on here, and it's really glossy. There's no marks in here, so I prefer to do that with this quarter panel rust repair that we're doing. And once this dries and I prime it again, I'll be able to take it outside and blow off all the dust and clean it up a little bit. I also, you can't really tell, but I undercoated. Got some rubberized undercoating, and I started spraying the inside wheel well, where, you know, I was working with the welder in the back, you know, where I peeled it up a little bit to get back there with the welder. It's all closed up, so I just want to undercoat it. And the other side's not undercoated, but I bought an extra can of undercoating, and I'm gonna make that match over there. It'll just help the truck anyway. So that's something you may want to do also. Okay, so we're back. I finished with the putty, sanding it smooth. I sanded all the gray primer down, and I just recoated it. And again, I'm using the spray cans. I just don't feel a need to, for the little bit I'm doing, to go out and spend the money to buy a gallon of primer mix for the spray gun. It's not that big of an area. I put a few coats on, 3 or 4 coats. I mean, you can see the streaking, and that's part of the spray can. I'm gonna let this dry again, and probably let it dry overnight. I put it on kind of thick, and I think it's close. You can tell a big difference now from when we first started off with the rust holes and cutting the metal out and welding it on. The body work looks really good. It turned out good. And I think one more good sanding and the cleaning of the truck, obviously. A good sanding and one more solid coat of primer, and I do believe it would be ready for paint. And that's about it. So if anything, I hope it helps you get an idea of how the, you know, rust repair, how to do, you know, weld the patches on and do a little bit of the body work and get everything back in order. I hope it helped you out. I know I'm always turning to YouTube videos for information and how to do a lot of repairs and parts for different things, mechanical stuff, and basically everything. So if nothing else, I hope this helps somebody out a little bit. Thank you. Have a good day.